Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frosty Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome in to the LA Football Show on the LA Football Network, always on the Believe Podcast Network, and every Friday at 5 on the mightier ESPN Radio. Excited to have you with us. Thanks for making us a part of your day, whether it's on your commute, whether you're sitting hanging out, whether you are just perusing YouTube or the net. We appreciate you stopping by the LA Football Show. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. You can find me on Twitter at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. Excited. Hope everyone had a great week so far. It's beautiful in Los Angeles, sunny, warm. It's January. It's football weather. We got Rams, Niners, NFC Championship, everything on the line for this Rams team as they try to break this 7-game losing streak against this Niners team. And they need to do it in a big way, and they will get to the Super Bowl if they're able to do so. We're going to get all into it. I'm joined by one of my best friends. I went to college with him. He is a diehard Niners fan. So we're going to get into it, talk matchups, talk about keys to the game, everything you need to know. My buddy Levi Lefler went to college together. So excited to get him on here. If you still need to go to the game, one of our sponsors of the show is our friends at TickPick. It is a ticket agency similar to StubHub, Ticketmaster, SeatGeek, all those out there. The difference with TickPick is there's zero fees. So I know ticket prices for this game are crazy, but we need to pack the house with Rams fans, guy. We need as many Rams fans there as possible. And if you go to TickPick, there's zero fees. So let me just put it in perspective for you. If you go to StubHub, you see a ticket for $500. You go to TickPick, you see a ticket for $550. That $550 is your final price. StubHub, they're going to slap on a $50 or $60 or $70 fee on top of that $500. So you end up saving money on TickPick. So it might not look cheaper originally, but go through the checkout process. I promise you TickPick is cheaper, and you got to use my link. It'll be in the description below, but if you're on radio, it's tickpick.com/LAFB. That's tickpickla.com/LAFB. So check that out. Let's have a great game on Sunday. But we gotta break it down first, and we're going to get all into it right now. So let's just jump into this conversation with my good buddy, Levi Lefler. All right, as I mentioned in the intro, joining me now on the LA Football Show right here on AM, the mightier ESPN Radio. Super excited to welcome on one of my best friends. We go way back, and happens to be a Niner fan. So I guess it's fitting to have him on here as we preview this huge Rams-Niners NFC Championship game right here at SoFi. But my man, Levi Lefler, Levi Fuller, if you know him around the country. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
How's it going? Yeah, it's been a while since I was the spokesperson for Hams. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because it technically wasn't real. But anyway, yeah, you know, it's good to be on. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and it's going to be fun. And to start off first, because it's perfect that you're wearing this hat. So I don't know if you've seen, but there's a lot of memes that go around and stuff about LA fans that are specifically, you know, this week and whenever the Rams play the Niners, LA fans that are Dodger fans and Laker fans, but the Niner fans. And I know your reasoning, and it's totally valid, but I'll turn it to you and let you defend yourself, because here you are. For those listening on radio, not watching on our YouTube channel, Levi is wearing an LA Dodgers hat with the Niners jersey right by him. So I'll let you defend yourself. I know it's valid. I know it's okay. I'm with you, but go ahead and defend yourself.
You know, it's one of those things. I always have to explain myself about this, but you know, the reality of it is, growing up, you know, I was born in 1989, so I was basically a 90s kid, and you know, for all of my childhood, the LA didn't have a football team, and so anyone in my generation that grew up a Dodger fan or Laker fan or anyone in the LA area kind of had to pick, you know, between another California team or just pick a random team or whatever the case may be. You know, early 90s, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, T.O. I mean, how are you not going to choose the Niners when the Chargers and the Raiders didn't really have much going on at the time? So it was just an exciting time to, you know, be a Niner fan. And in reality of it is, I really, you know, my brother was a Niner fan, and I just kind of followed in his footsteps from that standpoint. But yeah, that's kind of my reasoning. And I grew up in the Central Valley too. So, there's no team anywhere close to me. Like the Dodgers are still 3 hours from me. San Francisco's 3 hours from me. So it was just one of those things you got to gravitate toward one. And the Niners was the logical choice for me.
Yeah, I've said it a lot these last few weeks that that's just the way it is. Like it or love it, but that's the way it is in LA. When there was 20 years of no teams, you had. I mean, when we were in college. So for those who don't know, me and Levi went to college together at Long Beach State, and we were in college. It's like the majority of people we knew were Niner fans, like almost everyone, and not just people that were moved from the Bay Area, people that were local because there was no teams. Like we went to school in 2008. The Rams didn't come till 2016. So I would say the Niners, I've said the Raiders, Charger fans were basically San Diego kids that moved up to go to college. And then you had like random Cowboys and some other teams up there. But it's just the way it was. But let me ask you this, though, before we move on. So being in the Central Coast, right in between, choosing the Niners, and I know the reasoning, but choosing the Niners, why then didn't you choose the Giants as your baseball team? Why did you go Dodgers baseball, Niners football, Lakers basketball?
Okay, so for me, it was more about my dad grew up in Caneo Park, which is, right around Thousand Oaks area, Westlake. And he's been a diehard Dodger fan his whole life. My mom even grew up a Dodger fan. And so for that, that was always easy for me to become a Dodger fan for that regard. And I was born in Westlake, which is right by Thousand Oaks as well. And so everyone I knew, all my family friends, we were all Dodger fans. And, I played baseball growing up. So that was going to be my number one team because that's who my dad rooted for. And my dad isn't as much of a football fan, and he actually likes the Rams and the Chargers, which makes no sense to me still. But
well, he loves the LA Football Network. Then he's good.
Yeah, exactly. But that was fun in what was it, 94, I guess, when I was like 4 years old. Even though I didn't really know what was going on, watching the Niners just absolutely crush the Chargers in the Super Bowl, and my dad didn't even care. I was like, okay, this. He doesn't care about football as much as I do. So, and I was 4 years old. I already cared more about it. So,
yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess. And like everyone, you kind of follow your alliances with your family and parents and stuff. So, and I think what people don't understand too is, Central California, you don't have that Southern California, Northern California rivalry. So it's kind of like it's not a huge, at the time, wasn't a huge deal, right?
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, when I grew up, like half my friends were Giants fans, half my friends were Dodgers fans. There's A's fans mixed in here, there, Angels fans. And so it was just everyone was kind of like a melting pot there for especially for baseball. And football, it was mostly Niner fans just because, again, there's no team in LA, and all the Giants were already going to be Niner fans, and kind of the Dodger fans just became Niner fans too. Because like I said, Jerry Rice, Steve Young, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, I had to ask. So I think it's valid. I totally get it. And I've said it many times on my show that's just, how it was for 20 years here. And people aren't just going to all of a sudden jump ship once the Rams move back here. Now it's a slow build now for the younger generation, which I've said is happening. Like, I think this Rams fan base is growing great in LA, but it's just going to take time. It's not going to supplant the team that was the pseudo home team for 20 years. But we get in this game, round 3, the menage a trois, the rubber match, if you will. Actually, we can't even call it the rubber match because the Niners have won 6 straight, so we can't call it that. But the third matchup of the season. Let me ask you this first, though. The Niners, you have to remind me what their actual record was, but they were like 4-7 or something. Like, it looked like hope was lost. Things were going bad. They may have not been quite that bad. They had like close to a losing record. What flipped where they all of a sudden now just became a scary team again?
Yeah, I mean, so just to reiterate, they were 3-5 after week 9, I guess. They had an early bye, but so halfway through the season, they were looking like, okay, this team's not going anywhere. Expectations at the beginning of the season, I think for most fans were high, but they weren't unrealistic. Like, oh, this team's for sure gonna, run the table, go to the I think most fans would be happy at the beginning of the season with the Niners where they are right now, win or lose. On Sunday, I think that's a successful season.
It seemed like, not to cut you off, it seemed like media expectations for the Niners were almost higher than fan expectations. Like, most of the media had the Niners winning the West and going to the Super Bowl. And I think fans were like, well, I think we'll be good and make the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think, it was Niners Rams, right? That was kind of, the two teams that everyone was talking about, like, oh, which team's going to come out on top? The other team's clearly going to be a wild card team. And then obviously the Niners had to sneak in week 18, but it was, and then the Seahawks somehow, I don't know what happened this year, but the Seahawks are always a team you got to, keep your eye on. And then the Cardinals came out of nowhere too. But yeah, I think these two teams were just at a completely different stage at the beginning of the year, right? Like then we knew they were both going to be competitive no matter what. But you look at the Niners, like they traded up to draft a quarterback, and so they're already almost not throwing in the towel, but they're basically, reloading, not necessarily rebuilding, but like, hey, Jimmy G might not be the answer. He always gets hurt. We at least need to have a backup plan, right? And I think a lot of fans going into the season were like, this is going to be a rebuild year because we need to see what Trey's going to do. And then if he has success, we knew the defense was going to be good. We knew we had weapons on offense, and we were just hoping that Trey Lance could bring an extra element to that game. Well, Trey Lance never saw the field except when Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt. And it's just, and the Niners, they didn't make any huge free agent splashes. They re-signed their guys. They re-signed Trent Williams. They went out and got Samson Ebukam from the Rams, but like that wasn't like a huge signing. Like he's played great, but it wasn't like, oh wow, this is a game changer. Where the Rams at the beginning of the year, they go out and trade for Matt Stafford, a huge upgrade at quarterback, and then throughout the year they go out and get OBJ, they get Von Miller, and it's like the Rams are in a situation where they're all in. Like there's no doubt about it. When the Niners are kind of like, they're playing with house money at this point. Like but yeah, to answer your question, I feel like what kind of flipped for them was everyone got healthy, and then on top of that, Nico Ryans being a first-year defensive coordinator, I think he kind of got into the flow of things. I think the game was coming a little bit too quick, but even at the beginning of the year, they beat the Lions, they beat the Eagles, and then they lose to the Packers by 2 points on a 37-second drive from Aaron Rodgers to win the game. And at that point, everyone's still thinking, okay, Niners are a team to be reckoned with. But then you see them lose to the Cardinals for whatever reason. They've always had our number. And then Garoppolo got hurt, and Trey Lance had his first start against the Cardinals, actually. And then from there, they kind of just hit a little bit of a rough patch. Kittle was hurt. I think Fred Warner missed some time, and it was just one of those things where, it was nothing was clicking for them. But once they got everyone back, DeMeco Ryans kind of figured out how he wanted to run the defense. Everything kind of just fell into place, and they ended the season on a 7-2 run. And then with obviously Week 18 being one of the craziest games I've ever seen in my life, up until the AFC game between the Bills and Chiefs, but everything just started clicking for them. And this is the team that everyone expected at the beginning of the year, and now it's almost like a surprise that they're here, even though we knew they're capable of this the whole time.
Yeah. Just so everyone out there knows, two of my best friends I have to deal with is Levi's a Niners fan, and my other buddy Ryan is a Chiefs fan. So I got to deal with that all the time. And they're now both those teams have been very good for quite some time, but. Talk to me about DeMeco Ryans, because you lose Robert Saleh, who was, a great defensive coordinator with you. That's who, Kyle Shanahan brought with him when he was a first-year head coach. I believe brought him over from Jacksonville or something, but Robert Saleh obviously did a phenomenal job. His players loved him, goes and gets the head coaching job at the Jets. And there was a thought maybe there'd be a little bit of a drop-off, and kind of as you alluded to, there was a little bit plus the injuries, but now DeMeco Ryans has his defense rolling. I mean, you watch that Packers game, Aaron Rodgers and the MVP and Devontae Adams, they could do nothing against that defense. Talk to me about DeMeco Ryans and what he's meant for this team.
Oh my, he's been incredible, and losing Robert Saleh, I was all about Robert Saleh. I love the guy, especially the energy that he brought to the team. You see him, after a sack, you see him on the sideline just going crazy, headset flying. He's just clapping, and you can tell the players love playing for him. And DeMeco Ryans is a lot of the same as far as, the players love playing for him, but he's much more calming presence on the sideline. But I don't know what it is about him, but I mean, he was a 7th round pick for Houston back in the day. And, he ended up winning Rookie of the Year. So, he knows what he's doing. And it's one of those things too, where, the late round draft pick that kind of comes up, like, that guy's going to be a good coach down the line too, because he had to grind for everything. Nothing really came, to him easy. And he deserves to be there. And I think he deserves a head coaching job, or at least to be in consideration with all these openings coming up this offseason. And I hate to lose him, but, I'd be happy for the guy if he left too. But, he's meant a lot to this team. Just, you can see all the players rally around him, and everyone loves him. And, obviously the team's doing well defensively. So it's easy to see.
Yeah. I think he'll definitely next year, if he keeps this up, be one of the top probably candidates for head coaching jobs. There's still some openings now, so could get some interviews. We'll see, but
yeah, it could be like Brandon Staley last year, where it kind of, no one expected him to get one necessarily that year, but then all of a sudden, he's off the team, and then you're like, great, no, what do we do? So
yeah, exactly. Which was surprising to some, but everyone knows my love for Brandon Staley. So, but yeah, DeMeco, you can't talk about what he's done, and, you know, being a former player, as you mentioned. And I think a lot of players resonate with that. Those guys that came up through the ranks, played, had to, you know, work their butts off, have a good resume they've built, and they can put those X's and O's now and put them in a position to be a better player. Because not all players can do that. You know, we talk all the time. Me and you have talked, we've had talked all the time back in college. Like, a lot of the reason why the great players can't coach is because they're so good at something that they know one way to do things. It's like, this is the way you do it. This is how I did it. I was so good. A coach has to know a myriad of ways to do things. And so when a player becomes a coach, can do that, I think there's a lot of players that really, you know, resonate with that and really fall in tune with that. So who on this defense, I mean, there's a lot of big name guys, but in your opinion, who is the most important player on this defense? And I probably have an idea here to say, but give me who you think is most important. We can go from there.
That's such a tough question. I mean, the easy answer is to say Nick Bosa. He's just an absolute game wrecker when he's in there. Like, I mean, it's when he's not on the field, you see the difference, right? Like, toward the end of that Cowboys game where he left with the concussion, the Cowboys started to come back. Like, Niners were in complete control of that game. There wasn't a doubt in my mind they're going to win. Nick Bosa goes out, and you see Dallas start to creep back, and it's just all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, like, are we really going to lose this game right now? But he's also the best player, so it's easy to say he's the most important. But I think Fred Warner is another guy he's so important to this team. And he was struggling early on in the year, and then he's really come around. You know, he's not missing tackles anymore. He's wrapping guys up in the backfield. And that's the main thing is this defense gets after you on first down, rushing 4 guys, and they can stop you for a loss on first down. Then all of a sudden you got 2 plays to go more than 10 yards, and it's rough. And that's what this defense does to you. And that's the nice thing too, is their secondary is weak, but they're able to rush 4 guys and drop these linebackers into coverage. And that's where a lot of this gets lost too, is their linebackers aren't just, you know, good run stoppers. These guys can cover tight ends. They can cover some wide receivers. And, you know, you see sometimes Fred Warner out there covering OBJ, and you're like, how is this even possible right now? But
he's a freak.
You know, he sticks with them. These guys are fast. They're quick. They have good ball skills. Like, so I'd say those 2 guys for sure. But I mean, it's the easy answer because they're the 2 best players on the defense too. So it's easy to say that. So
yeah. I mean, there's a reason why Fred Warner became one of the highest paid linebackers in the game. Dude's a freak. He's that good. Dre Greenlaw. A lot of Rams fans hate this guy, calling him a dirty player. No fan ever calls anyone on their own team dirty, but is Dre Greenlaw a little bit, does he get away with some things, or does he push the envelope a little bit, or you don't see it that way?
Yeah, I mean,
you can be honest.
No, to me, for anyone who plays with that sort of passion is going to be labeled a dirty player. I think no matter what, like, you know, he's not like, you know, Ndamukong Suh, you know, stepping on people's legs and stuff, but, you know, he'll hit you after the whistle a little bit, you know, but he gets under everyone's skin and he likes to talk smack. You know, he's not going to go out here trying to, you know, end your career or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, anyone who plays with that sort of passion, I think at some point, especially from your rival, is going to get called a dirty player. You know, like, I love Aaron Donald. Like, I mean, I absolutely hate him because he's on the Rams and he wrecks defenses. But I mean, I think he's kind of the same player, right? He's going to hit you a little bit after. He's gonna get in your face. He's going to talk some smack. But like, is he dirty? I don't know. Like, it's hard to say. I think those 2 guys are very similar in that regard. Is obviously Aaron Donald's an otherworldly talent, and not comparing him talent-wise to Dre Greenlaw, but I think they're both just very passionate, and I think that's kind of where you get that stigma, so to say.
Yeah. I've had a lot of opposing fans call Aaron Donald dirty, and I'm like, I don't see that at all. Like, same thing. Just, I mean, he's bad. Right. I think with Donald, there's been those, 2 instances and another instance in, I think it was against the Cardinals, where it looks like he's like attempting to like choke a guy. And that's like, okay, if he really was, then that is kind of like, that's not good, but I don't know. Let bygones be bygones, I guess. I think just don't mess with Aaron Donald. That's the moral of the story.
Why would you ever? Like,
yeah, the dude's a freak. So, Jimmy Ward has been great for you guys in that first matchup, or I guess technically the second. No, yeah, the first matchup had he had 2 picks against the Rams, had the first one on the deep OBJ pass from Matthew Stafford. You talked about the secondary being somewhat of a weak link. So how important is it for Jimmy Ward to really kind of be the glue that holds them together, especially against this Rams offense that I think is just getting better and better and better as the season goes on? And it displayed that for the first 2 weeks of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Ward's the veteran on that defense too. You know, he's the longest tenured defensive guy on the Niners. He's been under with these coaches since the inception of him getting drafted, and he's kind of like being the safety, he's kind of like the quarterback of the defense. He kind of puts everyone where they need to be. And, obviously he's instrumental in the success and the turnaround they've had. But, he needs to play well for the Niners to have a chance. The secondary does in general, but again, that comes down to the pass rush, right? And so if they can get to you with 4, it makes these guys' job a lot easier because they only have to cover the guys for a certain amount of time, or they, they can double team Cooper Kupp or OBJ or whatever they need to do. Or, realistically playing the zone defense, Jimmy Ward's just been a master of that, being that deep safety for them. So I don't know. He needs to play well, but I think the secondary overall is the weakest unit of that team. But a lot of their weaknesses kind of get swept under the rug when the defensive line and the front 7 in general are just playing as well as they have been.
Yeah, that certainly helps in any defense. So before we get to like true matchups, let's jump over to offense real quick. Are you a Jimmy G? I mean, that's who's going to be the starter for the rest of the season, so it doesn't really matter. But are you a Jimmy G guy? Or are you excited to see the Trey Lance? Or are you kind of saying, hey, if Jimmy G kind of rolls this thing, maybe we need to roll it back? Or it's Trey Lance time next year no matter what?
I'm a little bit of both. I like Jimmy G. I mean, you can look at the numbers. You can look at what he's done, especially in the playoffs, and be like, well, if Trey Lance can't do this, then Trey Lance can't be a quarterback in the league, which is easy to say that, right? But I mean, there's something to Jimmy G that, and Rams fans know, he's been clutch. Yes, he's gotten his team into trouble sometimes, but he's gotten him out of that same trouble a lot too. And you can say that with a lot of players, like Matt Stafford last week, he got his team into trouble, but what did he do with the last drive of the game? I mean, it wasn't necessarily all his fault, but I wouldn't say that he played extremely well. He could have played better. He could have put that game away, but the game wasn't put away, right? Until he put it away. The same thing has happened with Jimmy Garoppolo. But, just looking at his record in the Kyle Shanahan era versus all the other quarterbacks that have played in that same era, there's no comparison. But at the same time, I'm excited for Trey Lance. He brings a new element to this game and to this offense. And I just think that, it's Trey Lance's team moving forward. I think Jimmy might get re-signed, but I think no matter what, at some point Trey Lance not get re-signed, but he might, stay on that year that he's owed next year. But I think it's Trey Lance's team next year. Even if it's not week 1, at some point he's going to take over, because Jimmy Garoppolo, as much as I think he's a very, he's fine. He's a competent quarterback. He's not going to win you any games that, Trey Lance can't win you also when he's ready. And I think that's the biggest thing is Trey Lance. I think the coaching staff looked and said, team can win a Super Bowl this year. Jimmy Garoppolo's been there. He has the experience. Trey Lance hasn't played in the year. So why would we, potentially shorten our window when we don't know what this guy's going to be? And I think him, and everyone says why would you sit him? It's Patrick Mahomes sat for a year, and look at what Patrick Mahomes has done. Again, not comparing Trey Lance, saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but sometimes just having that year and having a veteran who is comfortable in that role, knowing his time might be limited there, but still competing and showing up every day and being a mentor to the guy, I think it's invaluable. And I think the Niners have done a great job navigating that too.
Well, you kind of answered it, but I'll ask it anyway, and then I have a comment on it too. But I was just going to say, did it concern you at all the fact that Lance didn't take seize of the role this year, or you just feel like what you said, you think it was always going to be a redshirt year, basically ease him into it, and as long as Jimmy G wasn't just imploding, it was his season, almost like the organization saying, hey, we obviously showed you we're moving on from you, but we want to give you a resume builder so that some team goes out and makes you a starter elsewhere.
I think there's both, right? Because, Jimmy Garoppolo, the better he plays, the more value that he holds in the offseason if the Niners decide to ultimately trade him. And so I think it's a combination of both, right? I'm not concerned at all that Lance didn't seize the role, because you hear them raving about him in practice, this guy's great, this guy's great. But the reality is, practice and games are two completely different things. And I think the Niners looked at it more as Jimmy's winning games, granted, especially toward the back half of the season, right? I think if they would have lost a couple of those games and fell out of contention, I think you would have seen Lance. But the reality is they had a stranglehold on that 6 seed for a while. That loss to Tennessee kind of put them in a weird situation, but they're we're going to roll the dice with Jimmy. And he's been there. He's handled these situations. He's been put under pressure and he's succeeded. So I think that kind of was the reason why they kept going with him. I don't think it was necessarily that Trey Lance didn't, seize the role. I think they were just, we're not going to throw away this opportunity when we know we can win with Jimmy. Why would we put a guy in here that's not experienced, doesn't have this pedigree yet, And I think moving into next year, I think like I said, it's going to be Trey Lance's team at some point, whether or not Jimmy gets traded in the offseason. I mean, if Jimmy wins the Super Bowl this year for the Niners, it's going to be hard for them to just be like, all right, see ya. But they might do it because, I mean, they sacrificed three first-round draft picks to get Trey Lance. Like, if someone's going to offer him a for Jimmy, like, I think they might take that deal. But at the same time, I think he's also, no matter what happens, the Niners are in a good spot because if they don't get the deal they want for Jimmy, they'll just bring him back and have him start the year or be a mentor. And then maybe they trade it. If Lance starts to falter, they trade Jimmy to a contender whose quarterback gets hurt or someone who's just looking to upgrade, whatever the case may be. I think Jimmy's still going to hold value if he ultimately comes back next year as well. I think they still trade him at the deadline or whatever if they feel inclined to.
Yeah, it's such an interesting like sect between, I think, the Niners fan base, because just people that I know, including yourself and Jesse Naylor, a guy I've had on the show a few times, and like he's like the biggest, not personally, but as like a football standpoint, the biggest like anti Jimmy guy. Like he's totally like hasn't wanted to play since like day one. Like he's been all about like what is he doing that Trey Lance can't do, kind of thing. I mean, you look at the playoffs. I mean, 2 picks, no touchdowns, under 60% completion percentage. Like Trey Lance is saying couldn't do that, but then I get the perspective that you're saying. It's like, well, it's a leadership value. It's like they are winning with them. So sometimes it's that, I mean, so much in the NFL is about momentum and rhythm and continuity and why switch that up if you're winning, even if he's not putting up the crazy numbers. And so it's funny to see like just the two sides, the two parallels among the fan base. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
I mean, it's the Niners in a nutshell, though, right? They had Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, 10 years ago. It was the same thing. It's like you have a quarterback who's your starter who's limited but is winning, and then you have this other guy that's just absolutely electric and could take over a game in different ways. But also, Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played great, and I'll be the first one to admit that. But I think there's something to be said that this team is still 100% behind Jimmy Garoppolo as a starter. You see Deebo Samuel talking about it, basically saying like, hey, look, like if you want to talk about Jimmy's stats, that's fine. The only stat that matters to us is winning, and that's all that Jimmy does. So we don't care. And ultimately, Jimmy doesn't care about the stats either. And like I said, he knows his time his days are numbered in San Francisco, whether it be after this year, in the middle of next year, or the end of next year. He knows that Trey Lance is the future of this team, and he's taken that role on with, such leadership and basically just saying like, hey, I'm passing the torch to you. But at the same time, like, I'm not going down without a fight, and I'm going to play here until they tell me I'm not the quarterback anymore. And so I think Jimmy's a really great leader, and I think that gets overlooked as well. And I don't know. It's tough because you have this guy who's just could be like the next Patrick Mahomes, so to speak, right? Or Josh Allen. Like, he's just big, strong, can run, can throw. And then you have a guy watching Jimmy Garoppolo playing the quarterback position who's just a game manager, which has been working for them. But it's you think that this team could be a lot more, and maybe they will be. Maybe they're going to look back next year and Trey Lance is going to come out the gates firing like, well, maybe we should have started him. But if Jimmy wins the Super Bowl, then, I mean, the real fun happens, right? Then what are you going to do? So we'll see.
It's Rams fans won't want to hear this, but it's crazy the parallels that this Niners team and future of the organization has to that 2017 Chiefs team that Alex Smith was their starter in the draft. They traded up in the first round. They had a playoff caliber. They were a playoff team the year before. They were picking at like 25, traded up to 10, gave up first round picks for Patrick Mahomes at a Texas Tech. And everyone's like, well, that seems kind of like a reach. I don't know if that's you're a playoff team. What are you doing getting a quarterback when you could add players to build your roster up more? You went to the second round of the divisional playoffs last year. They roll with Alex Smith still the whole year. They go 10-6. They win the AFC West. They win a playoff game, or they may have lost, but they made the playoffs, winning the AFC West. And Alex Smith was the MVP of the Chiefs that year. They voted him team MVP. Yeah. They still decide to move on, trade him, and we all know what the history is from there. So it's definitely setting up for the Niners that, hey, Jimmy put you guys in a good spot. He was able to get you to the playoffs. You're in the NFC Championship game, but the team seems like, hey, they could still move on. And if they have that trajectory of, again, not saying Trey Lance is going to be Pat Mahomes, but have that upper trajectory that now they're just set for the future. So scary for Rams fans because that's not what you want to see.
Yeah, and it's kind of on that same timeline too, because that was right around the same time the Chiefs made that move. Was when, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when Peyton Manning retired the year before, correct? Right after they won the Super Bowl. Was that a few years prior?
No, it was literally It was Mahomes was drafted 2 years after Manning retired. So yeah.
Yes. So you have the Broncos, who were like the class of that division for so long, which, I mean, the Rams have, Niners and Rams and the Seahawks really have all kind of gone back and forth. But you see what the Rams are doing, where they're going all in. They're going all in. Eventually, it's going to bite them in the ass, right? Like, there's no way that you can continue to just keep giving up this draft capital and paying all these guys. I mean, Les Snead has been incredible at navigating the cap, which I still don't understand. I don't think anyone I don't think Les Snead knows how to understands the cap. He's like, I'm going to keep doing this so people tell me I can't. But
it's all Tony Pastores. That guy's a G. Yeah.
No, he's done a great job with them. But at some point, that they're gonna okay, like the Saints are in the same kind of situation now, where they're like, hey, we had that great run, but well, now we're 74 million over the cap, and we don't have a quarterback, and so it's
and look at the Packers too, same thing.
Yeah, and so I think the Niners are kind of doing this at the right time, where they've still been competitive for the last few years, but now they're able, if they can shed Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, they reallocate that money to extensions for Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa, and will still, extending their window with a young quarterback on a rookie deal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few years. But I mean, I'm excited. I mean, moving forward, even this year, I'm over the moon just with where they're at right now, and the potential to actually still win a Super Bowl, being one of the last 4 teams left. But the future of this team is bright too, and that's what's really exciting. Yeah,
exactly. Have you heard of the name Tony Pastores?
I've heard the name, but I'm not super familiar.
Okay, it's crazy to me that we had these 3 or 4 GM openings this year, and so Tony Pastores is he's like the Jennifer Garner in draft day. He's the money guru for the Rams. Okay. So basically, when Les Snead goes and makes a deal, Tony Pastores is the one that makes it work in the finances. How has that guy not gotten a GM interview? Even an interview, so much now in football is you have these GMs that are just football minds, but you also need that financial and analytical mind. How has he not got an interview? The guy has to work with just an extending black and red pencil book all the time. I don't get it.
Well, I think the reality of it is, I mean, we look at all these owners and think they're all these great football geniuses, but in the reality, we probably know more about football than 90% of the owners out there. So why would they know who this guy is if we don't, right? It's we all look at these owners oh, they must know so much. It's no, they're just rich people who had a lot of money, and it would be fun to buy a team. Now, that's not all of them, but that's a lot of those owners are. And so that's probably why he hasn't gotten some of these roles. And Jerry Jones isn't going to hire him because he's the GM. So why would he hire someone else to do his job? But, it's interesting how that doesn't happen. And obviously the teams that are run well have good GMs that they're happy with, and they're not looking to fire them. And that's also why he's not getting looks, because sometimes the well-run organizations are happy with the way their franchise is going. So they're not looking to, hire someone. And that's the sad reality of a lot of these teams.
Well, obviously we don't want the Rams to lose him, because Les Snead, how great Les Snead is, but Tony Pastores is the guy behind the puppet pulling the strings that actually has to make it happen, make the puppet dance. And I think too much ownership in general, they want, they look at a GM as oh, what's your scouting history? What's your pro personnel history? But it's when you're a GM, you still have a scouting department. You could have a guy that can work the numbers, and you have 8 scouts. Okay, tell me who to draft, and I'll lean on all you guys. As long as you have a good scouting department, we'll be good. So I just think it's funny that, I don't know, it's an old head situation. But hey, it's good for the Rams because they're not losing him, because obviously he makes things run.
Exactly.
So okay, in this game, huge game. Sunday, is it? Jeez, it's been a crazy week. Is it the first game or the second game? Do you know? Is it the afternoon game or the?
I actually don't. I think it's. I would assume.
I feel
the early game.
I feel I don't know for sure. Doesn't matter.
Actually, it's going to be probably either, because it's on the West Coast, right? If that probably has something to do with it. I don't know actually, but
I feel like the NFC games are always later for some reason. But anyway, so I'll ask you this, and then I'll give an answer. We'll kind of go back and forth matchup wise, but in order for the Niners to win, blank must happen. You can give 1 answer, 3 answers, 5 answers. What do the Niners need to do in order to win this game?
I mean, I think they just have to keep doing what they've been doing against the Rams, and that's, that front four just has to get to Matt Stafford with a 4 rush. If they have to resort to blitzing extra guys, Cooper Kupp's going to just eat him alive, and OBJ is going to eat him alive. But if they can get to Stafford and through the offensive line with a 4-man rush, then I mean, it's going to be hard to to stop because, or it's going to be hard for the Rams to move the ball because these guys are just going to have double, triple coverage, or they're going to be perfectly playing their zones. There's just too many guys out there for Matt Stafford to really be able to dice up the defense. But on the flip side of that, they have to be able to run the ball too on the offensive side because, I mean, that's their bread and butter. Like, again, like you don't want to put the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands all game. Like, yes, he can do it, but I'm much more comfortable with him not having to throw the ball and relying on our run to just, to be successful, even if it's early on, even if it's not successful early on, you need to keep sticking with it because Jimmy Garoppolo is most successful out of play action. If your running game's not working, play action's not going to do anything, and that's where the Rams are going to be able to take advantage of them. So I think being able to run the ball and also being able to get to Matt Stafford with a 4-man rush, I think those are the two most important keys to the game for the Niners.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the Rams obviously have to counter that. Just not piggybacking off that, I think the biggest thing for the Rams will be one, tackling. In that Week 18 matchup, tackling was absolutely abysmal. I don't know what happened. Just terrible. Ernest Jones, our rookie linebacker that's been on IR, should be back for this game, so that's a huge boost. Taylor Rapp also should be back off the concussion protocol, so hopefully get some good tacklers there. But it's on veteran leadership, and I think that's why they brought in Eric Weddle as comical as it is. And I know there's probably jokes around there getting this guy off the couch, but it's that veteran prowess that when the game gets out of hand, like it did in Week 18, where the Rams just were not tackling, you need those veterans to like whip the guys into shape. Like, what are we doing here? Like, let's get after this. So tackling is number one. Being gap sound obviously is very important because what the Niners do, I mean, this with their zone schemes and in Week 18, Shanahan did a great halftime adjustment, switching to like more of a pitch zone run. And it just was eating the Rams linebackers up alive, and the defensive linemen couldn't get off their blocks. So I think being gap sound and tackling is the biggest thing on defense. Not trying to be disrespectful. Jimmy doesn't scare me. I think our secondary is okay. Obviously Debo and Kittle are going to get theirs. I just think they're just too good of players that unless Jalen Ramsey can cover both of them, they're going to get theirs at some point. So it's a matter of mitigating the damage and tackling and stopping the running game. And then on offense, they got to establish the run. And what I think the yards per carry against you guys in that Week 18 matchup was like 1.8 yards per carry. Like they could not run at all. And what helps, Cam Akers, that was his first game back after the Achilles injury. So they were really kind of easing him into it. And now he's been basically full go in the 3 weeks since then, or the 2 weeks since then. So having him, having Sony Michel and Darrell Henderson might be back as well. I think that's huge for this running game and hopefully can take the pressure off Stafford because as long as he doesn't make that big mistake, I think this Rams offense can really get rolling, hopefully.
Yeah, and that's a good point bringing up Darrell Henderson too, because obviously Cam Akers, like he's looked great the last couple of weeks, but I mean, just giving that guy spelling him at all is going to be huge for them to, keeping him fresh the whole time because there's no way he's going to be able to handle a full workload. And Sony Michel being there obviously is huge too, but if you have 3 running backs that are capable of doing the job and not overworking any of them, like, I mean, I don't know if this has anything to do with how much Cam Akers has seen the field or the lack thereof over the last year, but I mean, those 2 fumbles almost cost the Rams the game. And so, and that might still be in his head. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'm sure these guys have a short memory, but having 3 capable backs, if Cam Akers starts to, maybe fumbles and again or something, and, McVay has at least 2 options. He can just say, Cam, like, we're good today. We're gonna ride with the other guys, and so just having that third option is huge for the Rams, I think.
Well, and D'Amico Ryans is extra coaching on peanut punching the football this week in practice because they watch the tape and they're like, all right, we're getting after this guy punching the football. So yeah, it'll help to be able to mitigate that with rotating it. And I think just the fact that Akers, Michel, and Henderson are so different style backs. I mean, the Niners have that too, in their different workhorse or their stable. So I think that helps be able to change it up and hopefully get it going early so then they can stick with it. And they basically had to abandon it last, even though they were winning, they just could still not get the running game going the last time out. So, all right, 2 more for you, Levi, and then we'll get you out of here. We got to talk Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel because, I mean, 2 of the best receivers in the game, 2 of the best athletes in the game. I'll just toss it to you. I probably know your answer, but who's the better receiver? Who are you taking?
Oh, the better receiver hands down is Cooper Kupp. There's no question in my mind. But the better football player is Deebo Samuel, and there's no question in my mind about that either. Yep. I mean, Deebo Samuel is just so electric. Like he can line him up anywhere, and he's going to succeed. You could put him at free safety; he'd probably be one of the best free safeties in the league. That guy's just a freak. But as far as what Cooper Kupp can do. I mean, this guy isn't lighting the world on fire with his speed. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's just so precise in his route running. He gets open. He knows exactly where he needs to be for Stafford to deliver the ball. Like, he's more of the finesse guy, where Debo's just, give me the ball, I'm going to run you over. And he still has the ability to juke you out and outrun you. But I mean, Cooper Kupp, dude, you can't say enough about what he did this year. Like, he was one of the best wide receiving lines in the history of the game. From a white guy, what is he, 6'1", 6'2", out of Eastern Washington. Like, no one would have ever expected that. But this guy's just absolutely incredible in what he's been able to do this year. But I think Debo's the better football player, but I think Cooper Kupp's the better receiver.
Yep, I totally agree. It's a perfect answer. Because Debo, I know that the Rams fans, there's a hate for him, but it's good. It's a rivalry. But you can't deny how great of an athlete the dude is and how special he is and what he can do. But I think at just the receiver position, Cooper Kupp has proven, in my opinion, he's the best receiver in the game right now. And obviously, you can argue with Devontae Adams, you can argue Tyreek Hill, all these other guys. But I think right now, based on production, it's Cooper Kupp. And I've said this a few times on my show, so it probably gets old. But there's a guy by the name of Jerry Rice that came out of Mississippi Valley State, 6'1", about 195, ran like a 4.7 40 coming out of college, ended up being the best receiver of all time. And Cooper Kupp had pretty much the same measurables there. So
they both got good quarterbacks throwing to him too. So that also plays a part too. So
that helps. Cooper Kupp was good with Jared Goff, but obviously he's been great with Matthew Stafford.
He's always been solid. But this year, I don't think it's even arguable to say that he took a huge step forward, and obviously had a career year. So
exactly. So, all right, my brother, you were the man. I appreciate you coming on. Let's get you out of here with this. Who takes it? Who's going to the Super Bowl at SoFi? The Rams or the Niners?
Well, I will preface it with this: no matter who wins, someone's going to have a home playoff game at the Super Bowl, because we all know the Niners pack that stadium more than the Rams do. So, but I will say this:
I was trying to avoid that all conversation, but go ahead.
As much as the Rams tried to prevent the Niners from doing that, and making only the LA residents be able to go to the game, unfortunately their efforts fell short. But it's tough. Obviously I'm going to predict the Niners to win, and obviously I wouldn't be surprised if this game went either way. I think it's going to be close no matter what. But I think there is something to be said with, like I prefaced earlier, like the Niners are playing with house money. The Rams. Like the pressure's on the Rams, no doubt about it. They're at home. They went all in. And let's be honest. The Niners have won the last 6 games against them. So Sean McVay can sit here and say, no, they're not in my head. Maybe they're not, but there's got to be something there in the back of his head. Is just like, oh my gosh, like if we lose this game again to the 49ers to host, for a chance to host the Super Bowl on our home turf, like there's more pressure on the Niners. If the Niners lose this game, everyone's gonna be like, well, the Rams were the better team. But it is what it is. And so I think there is something to that. And I just think that the Niners are going to come ready and have that mentality. Like, hey, look, like we're going to go out there and have fun. Like we expect to win the game, but like, let's just go out there and have fun. Where I think the Rams are going to be a little more, just on edge, a little more pressure to start the game. If the Niners get out to an early lead, I just don't see them losing it at that point. But I do think the Niners are going to win, but I think it's going to be close. Like 24-21, something in that range. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring because both teams have a great defense. And I don't know. I think it's going to come down to 1 or 2 plays. That's just like a Stafford bomb or a defensive interception for the Niners. Something like that's going to really change the tide of this game. And I think ultimately whoever makes the most plays, I know it's cliche to say that, but whoever makes the most plays is going to win the game. So,
yeah. And that's how it happens in the NFL. So, it's going to be a great game. One thing I got to set the record straight, and this isn't at you, but I know it's been talked about a lot because as soon as someone reports it, but the whole thing about the Rams trying to only have ticket sales to LA residents. So that, because I did some digging into it and talked to some people that know. And so basically, if season ticket holders did not buy their tickets up, and this teams do this all over the country, it wasn't just the Rams, then the team can take those tickets and just allow them to be sold to LA residents or to within their district. But season ticket holders bought them all up. So there was all tickets were in the resale. I know you knew that and you're just joking, but I know a lot of people out there didn't know that. And they literally thought the Rams were trying to hoard tickets. So I just want to set this straight. That is not what happened. And actually every NFL team does that in the playoffs, specifically if their season ticket holders don't buy their tickets.
Well, there's no reason to have home field advantage if you don't have a home field advantage, right? So, like, I mean, you want to obviously pack the house with your home fans. So the season ticket holder, like, of course you're going to limit those resales to certain people. Of course you're going to do that. But, I mean, from what I've read, it said something like 43% of the ticket sales have been from the Bay Area, which is just insane to me that's of at least, like, the resale stuff, not including season tickets, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But
that was according to StubHub. So just on StubHub.
Right. Oh, yeah. So I guess it's not overall. But still, and then, I mean, we all know how many Niner fans are here in LA as well. So, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see, like, what's going to happen and how that stadium is split between the two fan bases. But either way, I don't think, no matter who has more fans there or what, whoever seems on offense is going to be loud. It's going to be loud the whole game, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So.
Exactly. It's a loud stadium regardless. It's going to be a phenomenal game. I'm out of time pretty much, but I'm predicting the Rams. I think it's going to be close. I just think we'll get playoff Von Miller yet again, as we've seen all playoffs long. Von Miller's been great. Aaron Donald, I think has been great. That Raheem Morris came out this week and just stuff he said about Aaron Donald and how Aaron Donald spoke to the team, and it just like fired everyone up. And I know all teams do that, but there's something about this season I think that feels a little different for this Rams team. So I think they get it done, but I agree with you. It's going to be a close grudge match game that comes down to probably one final play, and that final play could either be a Matt Gay kick or a Robbie Gould miss. Who knows? It could come down to that. So should be fun. Where are you watching it? You going to the game?
I wish, man. I tickets are way too expensive right now. I just can't. I mean, I'm not going to go by myself either. If you're going to go, I'll go with you, but I'm not going to go by myself. So
okay, we'll see what we can have happen. A buddy of mine, season ticket holder, sold his tickets to a Rams fan. For everyone listening, don't worry, sold them to a Rams fan, but $1,000 a piece.
It's insane.
$1,000 a piece.
I can't justify that. I'd rather, I'd rather drink the beers at my home 30 of them for $17 rather than spend $30 on one beer and watch it from the comfort of my own home and be able to yell at the TV and not worry about anyone, like, interfering with anyone else. Like, I don't know, but it would be electric and it'd be a lot of fun to be able to go, but I can't justify $1,000. That's just too much.
When we have the LAFB suite there, then we'll be there all the time. So
I'll be there for sure. And I'm glad you picked the Rams for the record, because I don't know if you'd have a job in the morning if you ended up picking the Niners. So
yes. That's fair. I do try to always be fair, but that's true too. So
this
all right, brother.
The other way. So
too important, way too important. So Levi Lefler, one of my best friends, the man. Appreciate you, dude. Thanks for jumping on with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
All right, that's all the time I got. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Levi for jumping on with me. This is the LA Football Show. Go Rams, huge weekend. Hopefully we're talking next week about Super Bowl glory and the hope of hosting the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium. The LA Football Network will be on Radio Row this year in Los Angeles at the Convention Center. Would love you guys to come stop by to come to the NFL Fan Experience. We'll be cruising around, hanging out. Would love to meet all of you. If there's certain interviews you want to see, because all the celebrities, athletes come to town, we'll be on Radio Row all week. It's going to be a blast. So make sure to keep it with the LA Football Network. We'll be going live. We'll be doing recordings, doing social media stuff. We'll do giveaways. We're working with Golden Road Brewery. We got a lot of cool stuff coming. So make sure to keep it with the LA Football Network. But thank you today for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. Let's have a blast on Sunday. Go Rams, beat the Niners. Let's get to the Super Bowl. Everyone be well, be safe. I'm out. Peace.